The Bichette trade rumors are starting to intensify, and we're narrowing down the potential suitors that he could go down to. And the Kansas City Royals were a name that came up, and they have an interesting package that they can offer to the Blue Jays. So I'll break that down and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Jays Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. Nick, again, we are talking about Bichette because the playoffs are in full swing, and the Jays are not in it. So what better than to talk about their star shortstop who did not play like a star, but is 1 year away from free agency and could fetch them a pretty big haul. I know they want to be competitive in 2025, and keeping Bo Bichette probably helps them do that. But if they can't keep him beyond 2025, then this is definitely a conversation that they need to have. And I think the Royals could be a good fit, and we'll break it all down. But Nick, very interesting. And with the Jays out of the playoffs, I guess we're just going to go crazy with this kind of news here because nothing could happen as of yet, but starting to ramp up right now.
Yeah, and the biggest storyline in this offseason is probably Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting extended number one. But after that, it's what the future holds for Bo Bichette and the Toronto Blue Jays. And we've mentioned on the channel a bunch, this is a pivotal time. If you're a Blue Jays fan, it's a pivotal time for the front office and probably one of their last chances to get something done here. And we've been talking about a bunch of Bo Bichette rumors, and another one dropped just a couple days ago surrounding the Kansas City Royals. And this is a very interesting conversation. That's why I wanted to bring it up to you, Peter, and obviously to everybody watching. It's an intriguing team that no one's really talked about in the Bo Bichette sweepstakes. We've talked about the Dodgers, we've talked about the Giants, we've talked about a lot of these other teams. But now, this one says the Jays basically would send Tutan the All-Star to the Royals. And could the Kansas City Royals pull off the surprise move of the offseason? Two things are clear about the Royals' 24 season in hindsight. It was a smashing success, and yet they still weren't ready to compete. And it basically goes on to say that if they want to take another stride towards competing, they have one of the better young players in the league in Bobby Witt. They could do so by adding another young all-star in Bo Bichette. Now, obviously, they both play the same position, but you've been on record, Peter, saying, I'm kind of saying as well, if Bo Bichette gets traded to a team that already has a shortstop, second base could be a spot for him. And in this case, I think the Royals could be an interesting team to put together a package for Bo Bichette, assuming he gets put on the trade block.
Yes, absolutely. And they do definitely have some exciting younger players that they could go out and trade. Now, I'm not talking about their first round pick, Jack Caglione. I don't think that's realistic, but there are some options that I'd like to go over here, and I want to get your thoughts on these as well, Nick. So the first one to me, I don't know how realistic this is, but I would be over the moon if this was the return that the Blue Jays got. And it's a package centered around Brady Singer, the starting pitcher, who's 28 years old, same, a little bit older than Bo Bichette, but he was a high draft pick. He's a guy that eats a lot of innings. Maybe doesn't have the stuff that some other top starting pitchers have, but what he does do is eat innings, and he threw 178 innings this year with an ERA hovering around the high threes, low fours. Like he's that kind of pitcher. He's a 3-4, but he's solid. He's under team control for a few more years, and definitely someone that the Blue Jays should take a look at. I don't know if the Royals see him as expendable. He is one of their more important arms, I would say, but they do have Cole Reagans, they have Seth Lugo, they have some interesting starting pitchers that can help get them over the hump here. And acquiring another bat, which is clearly their problem. Like they had an issue offensively. You go back to that Orioles series. They weren't winning those games 8-0. They were winning 1-0. They were winning 2-1. They were winning those close ball games. And let's say you add another guy who's a 300 hitter into that lineup to protect Bobby Witt Jr., who's one of the best players in baseball. I think that really helps them out. And they're not that far away. The American League seems pretty wide open right now. And them getting a player like Bo Bichette could really push them over the hump. And I think they're going to be dealing from a position of strength in Brady Singer, who is a good starting pitcher, but I don't know if he's necessarily living up to the hype of being a top five draft pick, which he was for Kansas City.
Yeah, he's not an ace, but when you're looking at a Bo Bichette trade to any team, all indications are that if they do end up trading him, they're going to do more so in a retool way. I don't think they're going to go for prospects that are 5, 6 years away because they still want to compete. And I mean, Brady Singer, a trade package surrounding him could make some sense. You still want to add some other pieces, and you can see here, Jays shortstop Bo Bichette was recently named the #6 trade chip of the upcoming winter by an MLB writer. Again, he was subject to trade speculation. Bob Nightingale basically came out and said that the Jays are willing to negotiate a trade this winter because Bo is not going to extend in Toronto after this year, which is still up in the air. And of course, Ernie Clement did a good job. Shout out to him for being a Gold Glove finalist as well. But there's also guys like Willie Adames, Ha-Seong Kim, who are also available. Not available necessarily in free agency, but trade rumors and all these things. The question mark is, once Willie Adames and Ha-Seong Kim are signed this upcoming offseason, obviously they're free agents, what will then be in store for Bo Bichette? Because his value in theory then should go up for the teams that then strike out on the two big name free agents in Willie Adames and Kim, who are coming off of both respectively very good years, especially Willie Adames. So the market's going to open up once the two big fish are off the free agency board. And maybe that'll be, like you mentioned, in a wide open AL, teams like the Royals, teams like other AL teams, NL teams, even the Giants, could be more eager then to offer a package that is a little bit better than what they could get at the start of winter, which is an interesting thing to keep in mind. Even though he did have a down year last year, I don't think that's going to hinder his trade
Yeah.
value a ton.
Yeah, and another thing that we got to keep in mind is that Adames and Ha-Seong Kim are defensive first players. So that kind of handcuffs. I wouldn't say Adames is a defensive first player, but his glove is definitely one of the strongest points of his game. He's got more power than Bo Bichette, but he's not the all-around hitter that Bichette is. So if you're looking from a pure offensive standpoint, Bo is the best name of the three. And like we mentioned, a team with a shortstop already can go ahead and trade for Bo Bichette and stick him at second base for 1 year. They don't mind doing that. They don't mind because he's still one of the best offensive players in baseball if he is healthy and if he is right and on the field. And I think just him at second base kind of elevates his value as well. He's not the greatest defensive shortstop in the world. Whereas if you're acquiring Ha-Seong Kim or Willie Adames, you don't want to not put them at shortstop, but then you're in a tough position because you already have a shortstop on your roster. You don't want to ruffle his feathers. So I think it's easier to work out a Bo Bichette trade and to go on that perspective as opposed to acquiring one of those two guys and then just changing up the entire dynamic of your roster.
Yeah, and you Bo is probably, I mean, his future in the league, whether it's at shortstop or second, is still a bit up in the air. Probably a shortstop depending on the team, but you mentioned he's the best hitter out of the available free agents, whether that's in the free agency market or even on trade, because a lot of teams who have those great free agents or have those great shortstops, they're either locked into long-term contracts or don't really want to be traded. So let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on this. It's a very interesting package. Obviously, the Royals are a team that hasn't been discussed much, but I think if Brady Singer, let us know in the comments, a package surrounding, obviously it'd be Brady Singer plus plus, but I think it can make some sense for the Jays as they're entering a retool. And again, the Bo Bichette rumors are going to be the headline of conversations until Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at least gets signed, which hopefully will happen sooner than later. But any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be the conversation of the offseason for the Toronto Blue Jays. And it sucks that we got to this point. It sucks that they didn't meet expectations for this season. But I think it'd be ridiculous to just run it back with the same group plus a couple of additions. So I think exploring a Bo Bichette trade is the best course of action right now for the Blue Jays. I know a lot of comments that we've gotten on recent videos seem to suggest otherwise, and they don't want to get rid of Bo Bichette. But if he's not going to stay beyond 2025, then you're going to lose him for nothing. And then you're going to be sorry that you didn't try to get a haul of prospects for him, or at least some major league ready talent like a Brady Singer or a Mike L. Garcia, another name to throw out there for you on the Kansas City Royals. Again, there's a lot of teams that are going to be lining up for his services. We still don't know where he's going to go, but I think the Royals could offer an intriguing package, and a lot of teams need a player like Bo Bichette. They are maybe a Bo away from competing for a World Series. That's possible. He doesn't have to be your best player, but he can definitely be a great complementary player, which he has shown the ability to do in the past. So again, going to be an interesting conversation. I'm excited to see how this plays out. I don't know if he's going to stay or going to go, or I don't know if he even wants to stay, but we'll keep you up to date on everything that has to do with Bo and everything else that has to do with the Jays off season.
Yeah, so make sure to hit the subscribe button and let us know Are you of the side of wanting to keep Bo or trading him to the Royals or another team? Let us know. See you guys tomorrow.